living the here and now and feeling free. Now we want to welcome a big Unity of Lawrence welcome, please, for Reverend Jen Hutchins, who is with the Unity Arts Ministry.
Thank you, Jay, and thank you, June. I love when the music matches up with the talk, and we didn't even get to talk about it ahead of time.
That's Holly's work.
You just download it. She got the message. So today we're talking about joy, wild, abundant joy even. But before we get there, I want to share a little story with you. This past week, my son Noah and I, he's over there in the green, went on a trip with some extended family. We went down to Arkansas, deep into the mountains of Arkansas. And we were coming home yesterday, so we drove 2 days getting down there, and yesterday we drove the whole day, literally the whole day. We stopped to see some big cats, Eureka Springs, but most of the day was spent on the road, and we left at about 6:30 in the morning. So I set my GPS for home. Brought my coffee with me in the car. We've got everything loaded up. We get, 4 miles down the road, and the GPS says, turn left onto blah, blah, blah road. Yeah, you all see where this is going. So I look at the left-hand turn, and it is a dirt gravel road in the mountains of Arkansas. And I said, GPS, no. I'm going to keep going. So I kept going, and so the GPS recorrects itself, right? It gives you the next place to turn. And so it says, turn left on Big Mountain Road. So I thought, well, that sounds better than whatever the other one was. So we get there to this point where it says turn left. I look at the left-hand turn. There is some pavement. There is some pavement at this point. So I thought, well, that's better than the last one. So I turned. You guys have been to Arkansas, haven't you? Because I can hear the giggles already. You're like, you don't trust the GPS in Arkansas. Yeah, so lesson learned, right? So I turn on this slightly paved road that quickly turns into a gravel road that starts getting narrower and narrower till it is now a one-lane dirt road. And it's doing this. And then it says, turn right, and I missed it. And so then I back my car up because there's nowhere to turn, right? I back it up, and I turn right onto yet another dirt road that looks even narrower. On the upside, we saw lots of deer. It was very pretty back there. So at this point, I'm starting to get to where my hands are shaking. I'm saying not so nice things, but doing because my little guy's in the back seat, and he's pretty much the cuss police. So he doesn't have Emmett's hat, but it would work appropriately. So I'm trying to be as calm as I can, and I realized it's going bad quickly for me emotionally. So I asked Noah, I said, I'm feeling very stressed right now. I don't like this. I don't feel like I can turn around. And my mind is starting to go to, all these rocks. What if I get a flat? All of this, what if I need to turn? I can't turn. What if another car comes around the corner? I am stuck. So I turned to him. Well, it didn't really turn because I couldn't take my eyes off the road. But I said, if you could, can you please pray right now? Can you pray positive thoughts? And he's got his go-to prayer, which is, we are healthy, whole, holy, safe, protected, successful, and have great potential for good things. We are children of God, and we are awesome just like everyone else in the world. And so I hear him in the back seat affirming this truth. And honest to goodness, I started to feel a little more calm. And I said, it's working, keep praying. And I felt really positive about my choice to ask for his prayer because it was feeling better until the road before me all of a sudden became a lake. I mean, rushing water, people, and it ended. This one-lane dirt road in the mountains, down all these hills, all of a sudden ends at a lake. which apparently I didn't realize this at the moment, but later Noah shared with me that I called it a bleepin' lake. Now, I will say in my defense, I actually said B-L-E-E-P-I-N, bleepin' lake, because when we actually got out of there, obviously we survived, right? When we actually got out of there, Noah said, I have a word check for you. What does bleepin' mean? So I said that was Mommy's way of censoring the really bad words that were coming through my mind at that moment. So I'm facing this lake and a one-lane road and hills and turns and gravel behind me. I was just like, what do I even do, right? So breathe. That's what I did. I breathed. And I'm assessing this. And I was like, well, I can either back it up the whole way, or I can try to make a turn here, and I did manage to turn it and not get stuck. Thank goodness. Thank you, God. Thank you, Noah, for praying as well as you did and holding that space for me. So obviously we managed to get out of that. We got to a gas station, went back a way that I knew, even though it was like, a town like 5 miles to the other side. I was like, I don't care, I know how to get to that town where people are, and asked for a map and all that fun stuff. And donuts. At that point, I had a donut, I will tell you that. Noah was rooting for ice cream, but I was like, well, gonna call it somewhere at 6:30. Well, at this time it was like 7:30. We were a little behind track. But I share this with you because how often do we get off track? Life tells us go left, and we maybe look at the left road and we're like, well, I'll give it a try, right? And something goes awry, and we find ourselves stuck, literally, or figuratively, and not know what to do. And sometimes what we do is we look for the person in the back seat and we try to drag them into the hole with us. We try to pull them into the situation with us. Isn't this horrible? Look at the situation we're in. Have you seen the news? Right? And we try to pull them to that place where we're at. Now, if you were walking, along with a friend in the woods, and all of a sudden your friend falls into a pit, is it helpful to jump in? Not so much. And it's also not helpful if we're the ones in the pit to drag somebody else in with us. Because when we're both in the pit, we're both in darkness. We're both lost. We're both stuck. We're both stuck in human consciousness, in that level of fear, that level of feeling that you're not safe in this world, that level of believing that what we see on the television or through our social media, that's reality. That doesn't serve the world. What serves is when we are lifted up. And I share my story because my choice to ask Noah to pray in that moment was my way of seeking the light when I couldn't hold the space for myself. So today we're going to talk about joy as a way that we can lift ourselves up when we fall in holes, and to keep ourselves lifted so that hopefully we see the holes before we fall into them, right? And that when our friends fall in a hole, we can execute compassion in the true sense of the word. Some people have a misunderstanding of compassion that sort of has been interpreted as you must suffer with somebody, so that if somebody else is having a rough day, you should feel that with them. Oh, I feel your pain. Oh, I feel that. Yeah, that is miserable. Those are things we should be worried about, concerned about. This doesn't help anybody. Compassion means to understand what somebody is experiencing and to be the love for them in that moment. I hear what you're saying. I understand what you're saying and communicate it back to them. This is a rough time for you. You saw something on the news that frightened you. I understand that. And to hold that space of love for them. So when our friends fall in, we can say, hi down there. I notice you've fallen in a hole. Would you like me to get some help? when we stay in that state of consciousness, that state of spiritual awareness, we're actually in a place that we can help. We can be the light in that situation. We can go find a ranger, right? We can find the flashlight, toss it down so they've got a little light. We can pray for them in that moment to help lift their light and their awareness. This is what compassion is, being the love in the midst of everything, dancing and finding the joy and the madness. That's what joy can do for us. So today we're going to talk about joy, and we're also going to talk about practical ways to increase joy in our lives. You guys like that idea?
Yeah.
Yeah, increase the joy. We're all about practical Christianity here, right? It's about practicality. How do we use it in our lives? Because joy is not an intellectual thing. I could sit up here and talk to you about joy and how wonderful joy is and how wonderful joy feels, but if it's just here, it doesn't mean anything. And we're not going to shift those old paradigms. We're not going to shift the fear until we have those tools to take us to that next level. So this is practical Christianity, so I want to bring the Christ into this for a moment, because when Jesus was teaching, he shared with his disciples, "I have come that you may have life and have it abundantly." Now, in the gospel narratives, Jesus turned water into wine, he healed the sick, he fed those that needed feeding, and he gave uplifting words of encouragement to those that were there. He didn't look at the situation and go, "Wow, this is rough, guys." Right? Like, picture the storm, they're in the boat, the storm, the disciples come down, like, "Master, there's a storm." If in the narratives Jesus had just freaked out, it'd be a totally different thing, right? If he came out and he's looking at the storm with them going, "Oh my gosh, guys, you're right. Look at that river." Like, we're lost, we're doomed. No. His mission was to impart the Christ, the awareness of the Christ in all situations. The awareness of the Christ, the I am that is present in you and me, in your neighbor, and everyone here today. That I am is the power to uplift, the power to go beyond what we see right here in this human experience and lift it to a spiritual awareness. I came across a book, actually a friend of mine gave me this book to borrow when I came across it at her house. And it's a Unity Classic book. Like the binding's falling apart and everything. And she works at Silent Unity and found this on the exchange table there. It's called A More Wonderful You. And it's a collection of short stories by different Unity authors, things that were in their earlier magazines that went out. And this one is called Passport to God. And I just want to share a little bit of this. It is by Belle Burns Gromer. Passport to God. Joy, joyous, rejoice. That's how it begins. Say that with me. Joy, joyous, rejoice. Does that just feel good? Yeah, that feels good. She says that joy is one of the major gifts that God has imparted on man and woman. Bracket. In fact, it furnishes the speediest, most efficacious method of putting ourselves in tune with his Spirit. So the passport to God is joy. Have you ever felt those moments? Those moments in life where you're just going along and all of a sudden something happens, right? And it's that momentary upliftment of joy, pure joy in the moment. That's where it exists. that being a passport to God, being a passport to the I am Christ consciousness that can uplift us. When you feel joy, it might feel different for everyone, but you might feel tingles. You might smile. Your body might relax. We all know what that feeling is. There are folks, apparently, that study joy. Did you know this? I don't know what their title is, joyologist, perhaps. But they've actually listed things that bring joy. Fireworks, ice cream cones, especially ones with colorful sprinkles, bubbles, rainbows, and bright colors. Do you feel it? Can you picture these things? Now, many of these things are associated with childhood. Yes? And sometimes, as adults, we may think, well, other people might think this, we're in unity, right? We don't think this so much, that we can't express our joy because other people might be having a rough day. If we express our joy through bright colors, through bold actions in life, if we say, I claim that truth and I'm going to live that truth, and I'm going to express my joy in being who I've come here to be, we don't need to worry about somebody else feeling like we're pulling ourselves, like up here and pushing them down at all. Joy is our passport to God. So who's in? Who wants to go on this journey to greater spiritual awareness in our lives that we can keep ourselves buoyed above the madness, above those situations, and keep ourselves lifted up? So the practical part, living it, living a way that increases joy in our lives. All right, so my big key to this comes from The Sound of Music. How many have seen The Sound of Music? Yeah. Okay. So you're with me. The scene where there's the thunderstorm outside and Maria's sleeping in her bedroom. She's the governess for any of you who have not seen it. And one by one, all of the children that she's watching, all 7 of them, come into the room. Starting with the youngest girl, and then they come in, and eventually even the boys come in, and they're cowering. They're in their state of fear. There's a storm. So what does Maria do? Raindrops on roses and whiskers on kittens, right? She starts singing. She starts singing, not just any old song, but a song of gratitude, a song to remind everybody that was there of their favorite things. Rainbows and ice cream cones, fireworks, right? Reminding of those things that uplift and bring joy. Gratitude is one of the key steps in maintaining joy and living in a joy-filled state. The second is movement, because by the end, although those kids were like cowering under the covers with her in the beginning, by the end, they're all like swinging from the curtains and jumping on the bed with her. It doesn't have to be a graceful dance, but movement actually frees us up. Picture it, right? When we're like in this stuck state, it can, like the stress just builds. It's like you feel the tense, everywhere in your body. And the moment you start moving, start opening it up and releasing, there's actually a chemical process in your brain, right? Things that are happening that actually increase joy. So gratitude and movement. And the final thing is song. Song is something that can uplift us, and we experience that every Sunday here, do we not? I mean, just picture, listen back in your mind to June's song earlier. That helps uplift. So I propose, although some would say there's something about Maria, that she was onto something, right? That gratitude, movement, and song can be catalysts for joy, that can be our passport to God. Now, I said earlier that joy can't just be intellectualized. So we're going to practice these 3 steps together today. Don't worry, I'm not going to invite you all to stand on your chairs and dance or anything. We'll keep it fairly low-key. Although, where's the field? We'll do doe a deer outside today later. But I invite you, we're going to start off with gratitude. Gratitude is one that maybe we've all had experience with. But right where you are right now, no matter what happened earlier today, we're going to take a moment to increase our joy through gratitude. So if you are comfortable, I invite you to close your eyes for this part, because we're going to do an inner visualization. If you prefer to keep your eyes open, that's okay as well. So in your mind, I invite you to think of one thing that you're grateful for in your life. It might be a person. It might be a special place that brings you joy. It might be a career, an experience. Just one thing that comes to mind, and I want you to visualize it with as much detail as you can. Picture what it looks like in full detail. Allow yourself to use your imagination and invite in your other senses. What does it sound like, if there is any sound? Is there a smell associated with a particular place or person or an experience? What does it feel like to touch it? With the power of the imagination, bring that which you are grateful for fully into your consciousness. And then offer it a simple thank you. And when you are complete, you can open your eyes. Now, I'm looking out at a lot of smiles. How did that feel? Yeah. Gratitude is a powerful catalyst for joy. All right, second is movement. Now again, perhaps when June sings next time, y'all can just let loose. But right now, what I'm going to invite you to do is just gently move your body. Maybe roll your shoulders, lift your arms up. Just feel your body. And as you feel your body, give it thanks. Wow. How many of you are breathing right now? Yeah, that's something to be grateful for, isn't it? And just feeling that and giving thanks for your body, for the breath, just noticing the breath in and out. That's part of the movement, the flow. And that in itself can help increase our joy. Now again, given my car situation, right, I felt so stressed, like this on the steering wheel, right? If I had in that moment taken my own advice and even just, yeah, sure, there's a lake there, but we're going to get through this, that could just help move that energy to get to that next step. All right, and the final one is song. Now, we all have experienced some songs today, and perhaps you have certain joy songs. One of my favorites is This Little Light of Mine. I honestly, when I wake up in the morning, I sing that song to myself before I get out of bed, because it helps to increase my joy, right? That brings me into a state of joy and gratitude before I even touch the floor. So I'm going to teach you a song. Perhaps some of you know it. It's called Every Little Cell in My Body. We know this song. Some of us do. Jay knows this song. Jay's going to help us learn this song today. All right, so it goes like this for those of you who haven't heard it before. Every little cell in my body is happy. Every little cell in my body is well. Every little cell in my body is happy. Every little cell in my body is well. I'm so glad every little cell in my body is well. I'm so glad every little cell in my body is well. Wow, you all, so many knew it already. All right, so we're going to break it down because there's some who might not know it, so we're just throwing you into the lion's den here as it is. But we're going to break it down, and then we'll do a round like that together, okay? So every little cell in my body is happy. Every little cell in my body is happy. Every little cell in my body is well. Every little cell in my body is happy. Every little cell in my body is well. All right, then it jumps into, I'm so glad every little cell in my body is well. I'm so glad every little cell in my body is well. I'm so glad every little cell in my body is well. All right. Now let's put it together. So this song is a song of gratitude. Yes, I am so glad. So let's add a little bit of movement. If you want to stand up and you want to get really into it, feel free. If you want to just tap your toe where you're at. If you want to wave your arms where you're at, go for it. We're going to sing it through one time together, okay? Ready? All right, she's bringing us all in. All right, ready? All right. Every little cell in my body is happy. Every little cell in my body is well. Every little cell in my body is happy. Every little cell in my body is well. I'm so glad every little cell in my body is well. I'm so glad every little cell in my body is well. Woo! Nice. All right, you guys get an A+ for the day. Because can I just say, I have shared this technique with a few other churches, and you guys are the first one that actually took me up on standing up at that part. So thank you very much. Yeah. How you feeling? Where's your joy level at? Yeah. These are practical tools to take us on a passport to God. And the passport to God, of course, is that Christ consciousness, the awareness that God is our source, God is our presence, God is the breath that we breathe, God is the actions that we are taking in, as, and through us out into the world, bringing joy, defying those who would say that we should be miserable with everybody else, lifting to the light that we can actually make change, that we can actually bring joy into the world, that we can change it for the better, that we can see from that spiritual perspective. This is your mission. This is your challenge. Raise your joyometer that you can live from this place. And if you are ready and willing to do this, I invite you to share our affirmation together today. And our affirmation is, I live my life with wild, abundant joy. I live my life with wild, abundant joy. And so it is. Thank you all.